What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Suit Hein Show. Today is September 17th, 2021. Today is Friday, and last night we just finished up an amazing Thursday night football game between the Washington football team and the New York Giants. Want to discuss that in a little bit. We're also going to talk about my Week 2 picks of the NFL, a couple bold predictions, and also a couple games. You know, if you're into gambling, I highly suggest you pick some of these games. We're talking about all of this throughout the video here. And, Thursday night's game between Washington and Giants, we'll go ahead and start with that. Such a terrific game. The Washington football team was able to defeat the New York Giants 30-29. This was really a close game. Despite losing, I feel like Daniel Jones played better than people think. He had nearly 100 rushing yards. There was that major drop in the end zone for a touchdown, and nobody was even near the receiver. This game really could have gone either way. It was a tremendous game. And I wish all, really Thursday night games were like this. Last week we saw the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that was a game that really decided one of the last plays of the game. This literally was decided in the last play of the game. Taylor Heinicke played absolutely fantastic. I don't know what more you have to see from him for him to be the full-time starter in Washington. Talk about that in a second. The last play of the game, Hopkins misses a field goal. There's an offsides penalty on the New York Giants. They get to redo the kick, and the kick is good. They end up winning. Washington goes up to 1-1 while the Giants drop to 0-2 for, I believe, the fifth straight season, which is just absolutely crazy. Heinicke was just absolutely phenomenal this game. If you watch this game, I feel like he has to be the top talking point from this Thursday night matchup. And even if Washington missed that field goal and there was no offsides on the New York Giants, I still feel like despite losing by one possession against a quality New York Giants team, Heinicke has to be the starter in Washington. Heinicke was 34-46, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. That one pick to me, that was just a really, really horrible play call. It was 2nd and 7 with 2 minutes and 22 seconds left in the game. Antonio Gibson at the time was averaging 5.5 yards a carry. I have no idea why Washington was trying to pass. You should be running the clock. With Gibson averaging 5.5 a carry, you average his carries twice, and that's already a first down. That just play call to me was really, really horrible. And that set up the eventual score for the Giants. And, obviously the Washington football team had to come back. But you look at Heinicke and his performance. He had some of these throws that you see quarterbacks around the league who's been around for a while can't make. Guys like Andy Dalton, guys at times even Ryan Fitzpatrick can't make. The passing touchdown, the last passing touchdown of the game for Washington. Corny in the end zone, he threw it to only his receiver can get. It was an amazing ball. It was a 50-50 ball. Fantastic throw by Heinicke there. He has the most completions in the first 3 games of his starting his career. That's including postseason. He has 91 completions in 3 games. That is crazy because, some people don't even throw 91 attempts in 3 games. The fact that he has 91 completions with not a outstanding wide receiver core is very impressive. They have Terry McLaurin, who's extremely underrated. They have Logan Thomas, who's a nice tight end, but Curtis Samuel's out. This was a amazing performance for Heinicke. He really stepped up in prime time, and that's hard to do. He really elevated his team. Washington is a type of team where the quarterback can just play okay, and they can win some games. The defense can kind of bail the quarterback out at times. We've seen that years past, especially last season. But Heinicke really stepped it up when he needed to the most. The game-winning drive. That was just very impressive. If you do not know who Taylor Heinicke was, if you just see this quarterback marching down the field and getting a game-winning drive against a good Giants team, you would think this quarterback's been in the league for quite some time. I just do not get why this even is a debatable topic anymore. On Wednesday's episode I mentioned I would rather have Taylor Heinicke as my starting quarterback over Ryan Fitzpatrick. I do not think it's close at all. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the most inconsistent quarterback in NFL history. He might throw for 300 yards a game and a couple of touchdowns, but the next game he'll be benched within the first half because how bad his performance is. You look at Taylor Heinicke, he's only started 3 games in his career. He started one with Carolina several years ago. He started the one against the Buccaneers in the playoffs last year. They were nearly able to pull off an upset victory. Then he started yesterday against the New York Giants in primetime. Primetime, bright lights, his first start in a long time in the regular season. He's able to pull off a victory. I'm going to say I don't think it's a guarantee if Fitzpatrick plays yesterday that the Washington football team will end up winning. Because there's just two different sides of Fitzpatrick. It's either throwing for 300 yards or throwing for 3 picks. And I really don't think there's a in-between between those two. He's wildly inconsistent. You take a deep dive into Ryan Fitzpatrick's stats. It just really further proves my point, in my opinion, why Fitzpatrick should not even be considered starting for Washington. When he signed with Washington, I did not understand the hype at all. It makes no sense. I would rather have Alex Smith last year than Ryan Fitzpatrick this season. Ryan Fitzpatrick has had 12 different seasons where he started at least 6 games. In only 2 of those seasons, he's actually had above 500 years. That is absolutely crazy. He's had at least 3 starts with 8 different teams. He's not had an above 500 record with any of those 8 teams he started at least 3 games with. That is insane. Since 2011, Ryan Fitzpatrick is 4th most in the league in interceptions in the NFL. There's only been 3 years in Ryan Fitzpatrick's whole career where he has started a full 16 games. The rest, he's been playing, 6, 8, maybe 10 games a year. But the fact that since 2011, he's 4th most in the NFL in interceptions, despite only playing 3 full seasons, is absolutely mind-boggling. His win percentage as a starter is 40%. That is not good at all for a guy who's supposedly on this Super Bowl contender team. You need to have a much higher win percentage. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the most inconsistent quarterback in NFL history. It's time for Washington to have Heinicke take over. I know Heinicke's only started 3 games, but the potential, who's to say that we haven't even seen the best of Taylor Heinicke yet? I mean, he started fantastic last season in the postseason game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He played phenomenal yesterday on Thursday Night Football against a good Giants team, and that's his 2nd and 3rd career start. The more Heinicke plays, he's only going to get better. It is absolutely crazy to me that this is even a debatable topic. Heinicke should definitely start for Washington the rest of the season, even once Ryan Fitzpatrick is fully healthy. Because I really feel like Washington has a better chance of going to the playoffs or even winning the NFC East with Taylor Heinicke starting as your quarterback opposed to Ryan Fitzpatrick. So as we kind of continue here, I'm going to start my picks for the week. The first one here, I don't understand this one at all. The 1-0 Bengals take on the 0-1 Bears. The Bears are picked to win. That just does not make any sense in my opinion. I know I'm a Bengals fan. Obviously, if you've seen my videos before, you probably know I'm a Bengals fan. I try not to be biased. For instance, I didn't even have the Bengals winning last week against Minnesota. But looking at this game, the Chicago Bears, they scored 14 points against the Rams this past week. Andy Dalton didn't look as bad as people thought he was going to, but he still didn't play good by any means. Justin Fields only played about 5 or 6 snaps. He did have a touchdown on one of his rushing attempts. Their defense was atrocious. That was just absolutely awful. I was really surprised how bad their defense was. Their secondary had the worst PFF grade as their position unit. You look at the Bengals wide receiver group, they had the best PFF grade at wide receiver. Joe Mixon had 29 carries this past week for 129 yards. Burrow threw for over 250, only had 7 completions, and half of those were drops. I don't expect Joe Burrow to have this great day because I feel like he might kind of be like on a pitch count, maybe only 25 passing attempts, because they really want to make sure he does not get injured before this Pittsburgh game next week against in Heinz Field. But I definitely see the Bengals winning this game. To me, this is just mind-boggling to me that the Bengals are actually picked to lose. The Bengals beat the Vikings this past week, and nobody expected them to get the upset win. They played very, very good. Their defensive line was fantastic. Everybody really played good for the Bengals this past week. Mixon played better than people thought he would. He averaged over 5 yards a carry. The only thing with the Bears, if Andy Dalton starts, the Bengals will totally win. Justin Fields starting or playing a lot more snaps will make that much more interesting because the Bengals are known to not really playing good against mobile quarterbacks. But I'm definitely going to take the Bengals here. And To me, I mean, it's not an upset win, but they're picked to lose. I guess you call it an upset win against Chicago, and then the Bengals will improve to 2-0 with two upset wins to begin the season. 0-1, 1-0 Houston against 0-1 the Cleveland Browns. This is just absolutely crazy to me that the Houston Texans have a win. I said before I thought there was a realistic chance that the Houston Texans might not win a game this season, and they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. They forced 3 interceptions against the number 1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence. They scored over 30 points, which is very, very impressive. I did not expect them to play that good at all. They play against a Cleveland Browns team who blew a double-digit lead against the Kansas City Chiefs this past week. Baker Mayfield once again struggles in a game-winning drive. He has the most fourth-quarter interceptions since 2018. I feel like the Browns will kind of regroup in this one, playing a not good, Houston Texans team. Houston Texans are definitely the worst team that has a win right now in the NFL. I don't think it's debatable. And I still truly believe the Texans will have the worst record in the league. We've seen this before. For instance, look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last season, the Jacksonville Jaguars defeated the Indianapolis Colts in Week 1 last year, and then they just lost out. They lost 15 straight games, and they eventually had the number 1 pick overall in the draft. And obviously, they took Trevor Lawrence. But I have the Browns winning big here against the Texans. I really don't think this one will be even close. Next game here, the Rams. They won this past week on Sunday Night Football against the Bears, taking on the Indianapolis Colts here. The Colts were really shocking to me just how bad a performance they had. They lost by double digits against the Seattle Seahawks. They made Russell Wilson look like the typical Russell Wilson we've seen in years past. The first 5 or 6 weeks, he'll be the best quarterback in the league, and then he'll gradually decline throughout the season. I'm going to take the Rams here. Heading into the season, I was really, really high on the Colts. Their offensive line was much worse than people expected. Eric Fisher was out for that game, but I don't think that's just Eric Fisher that's going on. What's wrong with the Indianapolis Colts? Their defense was atrocious. Russell Wilson had over 250 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. Russell Wilson is capable of putting up those stats against good teams, but you would not expect him to have 4 touchdowns against a quality and good Colts defense. Russell Wilson had just 5 completions in the whole game. He nearly had as many touchdowns as he had completions throughout the entire game, which is just absolutely crazy. I take the Rams here. They looked phenomenal against the Bears, but yet again, it is the Bears. You look at Stafford and Sean McVay. I feel like that's going to be the quarterback and head coach combo that nobody's going to be able to stop this season. I take the Rams here pretty confidently against the Indianapolis Colts. The Rams will improve to 2-0. And one more bold prediction for this game. I have Matthew Stafford throwing for over 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. I know that's a lot, but like I mentioned with Russell Wilson, he threw for 254 and 4 touchdowns against Indianapolis. Matthew Stafford is known to having these 350, 400-yard passing performances in games. And with him and Sean McVay, I've said it in an episode before, and I had it in my bold predictions before the season started. I truly believe Matthew Stafford will break the single season passing record this season. I think he's going to absolutely torch this Indianapolis Colts secondary. It'll be a long day for the Colts. Easy win here, I would say, pretty confidently here for the LA Rams. As we continue here, a AFC East divisional rival, the Buffalo Bills take on the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins will pick up a nice quality win against the New England Patriots last week. The Bills, shockingly, lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers 23-16. The Steelers' defense were just really, really great. I don't think it was the fact that the Bills aren't as good as last year. I just think that they were really just caught off guard by this great performance of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I have the Bills winning this one here. Matt Jones and the Patriots, they had some situations where, it was not normal Patriot football. They were marching down the field and they had a fumble. They would at least kick the field goal. They would have been ahead and probably would have ended up winning that game against the Miami Dolphins. But they had a big situation there, the fumble. Matt Jones played good, but he could have played better. The Miami Dolphins got really lucky against the New England Patriots. The Bills, like I mentioned, only 16 points against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel like the Bills are going to bounce back in this one, and I feel like this, has determined with the quarterback play. Miami has a great team, and they don't have a great quarterback by any means. The Buffalo Bills have a good team, but Josh Allen is a great quarterback that can really elevate his talents. I want to take the Bills here against the Miami Dolphins. Both of these teams will go to 1-1 after this game. As we continue here, another AFC East matchup is the New England Patriots taking on the New York Jets. Like I said, the Patriots lost to the Miami Dolphins 17-16 this past Sunday, and the Jets lost to the Carolina Panthers, and Sam Darnold got his revenge against New York. This is a easy game in my opinion. This is one of the more easier games of all the matchups. Bill Belichick, if you look at him against rookie quarterbacks, it is an insane stat. For instance, look at last season. Justin Herbert last year was the best rookie quarterback we've ever seen. The Patriots shut out the Chargers last season 45-0. Like, he is tremendous against rookie quarterbacks and even, young quarterbacks in general. The Patriots, they lost last week. Not really, in my opinion, I don't think many people expected them to lose. I feel like Matt Jones will have a better performance than he did last week against Miami. Then you look at the Jets, and it was really a tale of two halves for Zach Wilson. The first half he played good. The first half he played bad. The second half he played good. But the Jets lost a major player on their offensive line, Mekhi Becton, starting tackle. He's going to be out for a while. I think that's really going to hurt him here. Even before the Mekhi Becton injury, I already had the Patriots winning this game. But with that injury, I definitely see the Patriots defeating the Jets here pretty easily here in Week 2. A couple other games here. The 49ers take on the Eagles. This is a very surprising game. I did not expect the Eagles to defeat the Atlanta Falcons, especially, not as bad as they did. I believe it was 32-6. The defense was absolutely phenomenal. The 49ers, they took on the Detroit Lions. They won 41-33. And the 49ers, they were up by 20-some points. And the Lions really came back and nearly almost tied it. I expect the 49ers to win this one pretty easily. I kind of mentioned earlier, I could see a one-game situation, kind of like how I mentioned the Texans. They win a game, but then they lose out for a while. Maybe it's the same thing with the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't expect this game to be even close. The 49ers will win this one pretty easily here in Philadelphia, and they will improve to 2-0. This game is really interesting. The 1-0 Las Vegas Raiders taking on the 1-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. Both these teams had two very impressive wins. The Steelers holding the Buffalo Bills to just 16 points. And you look at the Raiders, an amazing game on Monday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. And, to me, the interesting thing about the Raiders, they were able to contain the Baltimore rush offense, and that's ultimately a major piece to why they won. It's the most surprising part about this impressive victory with the Raiders going against the Baltimore Ravens on Monday. The Ravens were up 10 points. And I always tell people, the Ravens are up 10 points, the game's over. Because heading into that game, when Lamar Jackson is the starting quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, the Ravens are 27-1 where they are up 10 points or more. And now they are 27-2 with a very nice comeback at home with the Raiders defeating the Ravens. Their defense was inconsistent at times, but as the game went longer, it really picked it up. Derek Carr was, he really, first quarter, he was not really good at all, but he finished with over 400 passing yards. He was really, really impressive. This game is interesting here. These next couple games I have are just very interesting. I do not really know who's going to win. These are all kind of toss-ups. This really could go either way. I want to pick the Steelers here. It pains me to say, being a Bengals fan, but I feel like, looking at the Steelers, I trust the Steelers defense more than I do the Raiders offense. Derek Carr is good, but he's not great. They get pressure on Carr. I think it might be a long day for the Raiders. And the Steelers offense. The Steelers offense isn't really good, but the Steelers right now, I don't think they're a team who has to score over 20-plus points to win a game. I feel like their defense will bail them out, just like they did this past week against the Buffalo Bills. For instance, they had a block punt return for a touchdown. If that doesn't happen, it's a 16-16 game, and who knows what happens throughout the rest of the game. It's interesting, but I have the Steelers winning this one here. It should be a good game. Another game here, both of these teams are 1-0. The Las Vegas Raiders take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The New Orleans Saints take on the Carolina Panthers. Both of these teams are 1-0. Jameis Winston was absolutely phenomenal, throwing for less than 200 yards, but 5 passing touchdowns. The New Orleans Saints only gave up 3 points to the Green Bay Packers. You look at the Carolina Panthers, Darnold got his revenge against the New York Jets. I'm going to take the Saints in this one. I like the Panthers a lot this year. If you've seen my videos before, you know the Panthers and Vikings are some of my most underrated teams heading into the season. But Jameis Winston, if he threw for less than 200 yards and he had 5 touchdowns, imagine what he's going to do when this New Orleans Saints offense is more, a pass-happy offense that we've seen in years past. I've said it before, everybody talks about, Jameis Winston 2019. It was historically bad. It's interesting because I always feel like 2019, Jameis Winston, we're going to look back and say that's one of the most underrated seasons for a quarterback in NFL history. And I mention it every single time I talk about Jameis Winston, but it's the fact he had 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in 2019. But 13 of his 30 interceptions were drops. That is drops that turned into interceptions. To me, that's very, very interesting. I have the Saints here. I trust their coaching staff a lot more than Carolina. Right now, the Panthers definitely have better offensive players than the Saints, but the Saints defense giving up just 3 points against the reigning MVP and Aaron Rodgers. I just trust the Saints more against Carolina in this one. So the Saints, after this game, should be moving on to 2-0. Another game here is the 1-0 Denver Broncos against the 0-1 Jaguars. The Broncos were able to pull off a victory against the Giants. And the Jaguars played like absolute crap against the Houston Texans. I had the Broncos winning this one easily. Let's think about this. If Trevor Lawrence threw for 3 interceptions against the Houston Texans defense, I honestly can't even name 3 players for the Houston Texans defense. And he threw 3 interceptions against them. Like, that's pretty bad. Imagine what Lawrence is going to do against this Denver Broncos defense that's extremely underrated. You have Bradley Chubb and Von Miller, pressuring you in your face. You have Fuller, you have Patrick Surtain, you have Justin Simmons, one of the most underrated safeties in the league. This is going to be a long day for Trevor Lawrence. Easy one here for the Denver Broncos. The Minnesota Vikings are 0-1. They lost to Cincinnati Bengals in overtime this past week, and they go on the road to take on the Arizona Cardinals, who had a very impressive win against the Tennessee Titans. Lots of people were surprised that the Titans were upset against the Arizona Cardinals. I was not really surprised at all. That was one of my upset picks. It's weird because my pick'ems, I was 8-8, which really isn't good at all. But I was 2-0 on my upsets. I picked the Saints over the Packers, and I picked the Cardinals over the Titans. And I don't know with the Cardinals. I don't know if it's just they're this good or it's the Titans is playing this bad. I'm not surprised that Titans played horrible. Because everybody talks about they got Julio, they got Caleb Farley, but you also had to look at the people they lost. They lost Adam Humphries, they lost Dory Jackson, they lost Jonnu Smith, they lost Corey Davis, and they also lost their offense coordinator in Arthur Smith. I feel like it's going to take time for Tennessee to kind of get back where they were last season. But the Arizona Cardinals are very, very impressive. I feel like Kyler Murray, as of right now, is definitely, at the top of the MVP conversation. The Minnesota Vikings, they just honestly did not really play good. I expected them to play much better against the Cincinnati Bengals. Their offensive line was atrocious. And if you look at this offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings, I believe they had 9 offensive line penalties in the first half. That is absolutely insane. You do not see that hardly ever. Imagine what's going to happen when Chandler Jones plays against this Minnesota Vikings defensive line. Chandler Jones had 5 sacks last week. I picked him for my defensive player of the year last season, and he was out for the year due to a season-ending injury. But the 3 years prior, he had 48 sacks in 3 seasons. That is 1 sack for every single game the last 3 years. He's the most underrated defensive player in the league right now. He had more sacks than a $5 whore on the street. Like, it is absolutely crazy what Chandler Jones did this past week against the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to have the Cardinals here. I feel like their defense is going to, contain this Minnesota Vikings offense, kind of like how Cincinnati was able to do at times this past week. I feel like Kyler Murray is going to have another impressive game. The Cardinals will go to 2-0, and the Minnesota Vikings I think, will go to 0-2. Next up, the 0-1 Atlanta Falcons and the 1-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We could possibly be saying in this matchup the best team in the NFL and the worst team in the NFL. The Falcons look like absolute trash. There's no other way to put it against the Eagles. Only scoring 6 points. There's people already saying maybe they should have took a quarterback at the 4th overall pick instead of Kyle Pitts. It's interesting and definitely a debatable topic. I don't really feel like that's an overreaction at all because I really kind of feel like they kind of should have took a quarterback at number 4. All my mock drafts, I had them pick quarterbacks instead of Pitts. And then you look at the Buccaneers. They were able to have a very impressive game this past week on Thursday Night Football to start the NFL season against the Dallas Cowboys. And it's interesting because this is going to be a blowout. It's just a matter of how bad it is. I believe the spread is 14 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's one of those games because, you feel like the Tampa Bay is definitely capable of beating this Falcons team by more than 14 points because they lost to the Eagles by 26 this past week. But 14 points in the NFL, that's pretty high for a spread. The Buccaneers would definitely win this game here. The only thing really interesting to me or not is the Buccaneers will end up covering the spread here. My bold prediction for this one is the Buccaneers will score 40 points. And I know that might not be a huge bold prediction, but it's not easy to score 40 points in an NFL game. If the Atlanta Falcons give up 32 points against Jalen Hurts, imagine what they're going to do, how many points they're going to give up against Tom Brady, the best quarterback of all time. Easy win here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. This matchup, to me, is the most intriguing matchup of all the week 1. And I still don't really know who I want to pick here. This is kind of been a last-minute thing. The 0-1 Dallas Cowboys take on the 1-0 LA Chargers. The Cowboys were very, very, very impressive on Thursday Night Football to start the opening season against the Buccaneers. I don't think anybody expected Dak Prescott to play that good in his first game back from his season-ending injury a year ago. Their defense, they gave up 31 points. At times it showed improvement. Other times it just looked like crap like last season. And then you had the Chargers. They were able to defeat the Washington football team 20-16 this past week. I kind of expected more things from Herbert. Their offensive line is much better. They have Lindsley and Rashawn Slater. They definitely improved their offensive line so much. The best draft pick value-wise in the first round and the best free agent signing in the NFL. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys here in a very, very, very close game because I just feel like Prescott is able to do that against the Buccaneers defense. Imagine what Prescott's capable of doing against the Chargers defense. And the Chargers don't have a bad defense, but I'm just really intrigued by Prescott. I feel like he's going to elevate the Cowboys here, get a very impressive, I don't know if you would call this an upset victory or not because I really feel like these teams are even. But I would feel like this is more of an upset win for Dallas because this is at LA. This should be a great game. In my opinion, this will probably end up being the game in the week, in week 2 of the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys and the LA Chargers. But I have the Cowboys in this one in a close one. Next game here is the 0-1 Titans against the 1-0 Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks will win this one big, in my opinion. This is at Seattle. Despite the Seahawks not being what they used to be, it's still very difficult to play in Seattle. Russell Wilson, like I said, 254 passing yards last week and 4 touchdowns against a quality Colts defense. The Titans, like I said, played like absolute crap against the Arizona Cardinals. Derrick Henry rushed for less than 4 yards a carry. Julio Jones was held in check. A.J. Brown was held in check. Tannehill didn't play bad. I still think it's going to take a couple of weeks for this Tennessee Titans team to get back to what they are capable of doing. The Seahawks won this one easily here. They will improve to 2-0. And then we have Sunday Night Football against it is the 1-0 Kansas City Chiefs taking on the 0-1 Baltimore Ravens. This is in Baltimore. I have the Chiefs winning this one easily. You look at the Chiefs; they were able to score over 30 points against a very impressive Cleveland Browns defense. They were able to come back against Cleveland, and Cleveland's one of the better teams in the league. Then you look at the Baltimore Ravens; their offensive line was atrocious. I really feel like after Week 1, I think it's comparable. The Baltimore Ravens offensive line was comparable to the Bengals offensive line in Week 1. Villanueva was just awful. I don't know what's wrong with the Baltimore Ravens trading Orlando Brown to the Kansas City Chiefs. That was a horrible decision. And they're really going to notice it this game when Lamar Jackson gets pressured so much and he's not going to be able to do anything. I do not see this game being close at all. You look at Lamar Jackson playing against the Kansas City Chiefs. These games haven't even been close. I believe it was a Monday Night Football last year. It was a blowout win for the Chiefs. And Yeah, I just do not think this will be close at all. Jackson's going to struggle because he's going to be pressured so much. And with the Baltimore Ravens, they thrive on running the football. They're not going to be able to run because they're going to have to be passing to come back. Chiefs easy in this one. Another bold prediction I have. I think the Chiefs will win this one by 10 plus, honestly. The Chiefs, it really hasn't looked like they've lost a step. You know, they improved their offensive line. They had Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. They bring in Orlando Brown in a trade with the Baltimore Ravens. You know, they signed Joe Thuney from the New England Patriots. And then this defense, it's still pretty decent. Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And just with the offensive line with the Baltimore Ravens and their defense even. You know, their defense has took a huge hit with Marcus Peters out for the year and Matthew Judon leaving to the New England Patriots in the offseason. This is going to be a long day for the Baltimore Ravens. The Kansas City Chiefs will win this one pretty easily here on Sunday Night Football in Baltimore. Monday Night Football, the 0-1 Detroit Lions take on the 0-1 Green Bay Packers on Monday Night Football in Green Bay. I've seen a couple people think like this could be a possible upset alert. That is just so stupid in my opinion. Rodgers probably had the worst game of his career, and people are already overreacting. You know, you look at the best quarterbacks in the league, the best players in the league, they're going to have that, you know, some really bad games at times. That was one of those games with Aaron Rodgers. We're not going to see him play that bad, in my opinion, ever again throughout his rest of his NFL career. It was just a really bad game. He'll bounce back this week against the Detroit Lions. I just don't see how this one's being close at all. I feel like the Packers will win this one easy. I mean, scoring just 3 points against a Saints defense who lost multiple key contributors from in the offseason. They lost Trey Hendrickson. They lost Malcolm Brown and a couple other people as well. I think they're going to bounce back. They're going to score probably 30 points or so. They're going to be able to, I would say, stop this Lions offense. But at the same time, to me, everybody talks about the Packers just scoring 3 points on offense. That's a major concern. But the fact that they gave up, I believe, 38 points against the Saints, I think that's kind of more concerning with the Green Bay Packers. The Packers will win this one here. Monday Night Football, they're going to improve to 1-1. Should be a blowout win here for the Green Bay Packers. I just do not see this one close. And a couple of games here I really like if you're in like betting and stuff like that. Just a couple of games. As of right now, like I said earlier, the Chicago Bears are picked to beat the Cincinnati Bengals by 2 points. The Chicago Bears only scored 14 points against the Los Angeles Rams. The Bengals scored 27 points against the Minnesota Vikings. Like I said earlier, the Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver group was rated the best position group at wide receiver, according to PFF. The Chicago Bears secondary was rated the worst secondary, according to PFF. This Bears defense is not what they used to be. I expect the Bengals, honestly, to win here by at least 7 to 10 points. I would definitely pick this game here with the Cincinnati Bengals defeating the Chicago Bears. Another one is the New England Patriots. They're picked to win by 6 over the New York Jets. I would take the Patriots here. Like I mentioned, Bill Belichick against rookie head coaches, an incredible record. He's 21. Rookie quarterbacks. Bill Belichick is 21-6 against rookie quarterbacks throughout his time with the Patriots. The Patriots are also on a 10-game winning streak against the New York Jets. The New York Jets are very inconsistent with their, key contributor, Mekhi Becton on the offensive line going to be out for a while. I feel like they're going to have lots of pressure in Zach Wilson's face. I see the Patriots winning by at least a touchdown here. The Patriots, to me, that's honestly probably maybe the easiest one of the week, in my opinion. As of right now, the Kansas City Chiefs are picked to win by 3 against the Baltimore Ravens. Like I said earlier, this game is not even going to be close. I don't see the Ravens scoring more than 24 points. I see the Chiefs scoring at least 30 points, because if the Baltimore Ravens are able to give up over 30 points against the Raiders, imagine what they're going to do how much they're going to give up to the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the best offense in the NFL. They're going to be able to contain Lamar Jackson. This is a long game for the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like the Chiefs will win this pretty handily here against the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday Night Football. And one other one, the LA Rams against the Indianapolis Colts. I'm really high on the Colts heading into the season. I just feel like the Rams are going to be able to win by at least 4 here. They were just absolutely phenomenal. They killed the spread against the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football. The Indianapolis Colts lost by double digits against the Seattle Seahawks. This would be a long day for the Colts. Their defense was atrocious. Their offensive line was atrocious. Their offensive line was horrendous against a all-right Seattle Seahawks defensive line. Imagine how many sacks they're going to give up to Aaron Donald, the best defensive player in the NFL. I feel like the Rams will win this one by at least a touchdown here against the Indianapolis Colts. So some of these, the Bengals win outright against the Chicago Bears. The Patriots take them by 6 against the New York Jets. The Chiefs take them. They're picked to win by 3 against the Baltimore Ravens. And the LA Rams are picked to win by 3.5 against the Indianapolis Colts. So really what it does is, kind of talked about some of my bold predictions, my picks for each game in the NFL in Week 2 and a couple games I really like if you're into gambling or anything like that. I really, really appreciate you all watching. If you all could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would really, really appreciate it. And I will see you all next time on the Sports Dude Hein Show.